All right, got another game. Chicken Pants, who's certainly been doing his fair share of lifting. Let's go with c4 against Chicken Pants. Okay, knight there, and if it's gonna trend into King's Indian territory, which it looks like it will, then okay, we'll go back to this. Okay, let's play the what's called the same-ish. I've been playing a few King's Indian lines lately. Bishop d3, definitely one of them. Knight f3 is like the most standard. f3 though, kind of lends itself to a very quick attack on the king side and also a very sturdy center. As you can see, there's no knight g4, so my bishop's safe on e3, and bishop e3, queen d2 goes right after the king. So we'll see how he wants to play against it. Whether he's gonna castle, go with e5, d5, c5, b5. There's so many ways to try to attack the center as black. a6, b5. Start with e5. Okay, let's go queen d2. Passive for black? No, I don't think there's anything wrong with black's decisions so far. And I mean, the King's Indian is a fun opening. Certainly I would never use the word passive to describe someone playing the King's Indian. So a couple options. Knight e2 takes d4 is probably what I'm going to go for. d5 is another move. Like, if you're really committed to the attack, then d5 makes sense because you want to close the center before you do something crazy like attack on the side of the board. So both make a lot of sense. Knight e2 I'm going to go with is it's a little more of a regular looking move. You might get an open position with pawn takes d4, for example. So depending on black's moves, I might be more or less interested in playing d5. For example, if I see the move rook e8, I might be very interested in d5. Because rook e8 is a move that you'd want to play, let's say, in a position like this, because it's an open file. So if I go and close it after I see this move, then it makes the move rook e8 look not so good. Also, if I close the position, black probably wants to consider something like f5, in which case the rook would rather be back on f8. So all in all, if I see rook e8 with a pawn still on e5, I'm probably playing d5. That's just how it's going to go. But he took first, which is a good move. Knight d7. This is all fine. I think I'm going to go bishop e2. And this will be a good one to mention a few things in that position afterwards in the analysis, because they're not necessarily the most obvious things about the position. Let's go rook d1. Really want to handle this d5 move. Put some pressure here. In c7, and I think now we can castle. Bishop e6 can always be taken. Okay, now a lot of times I like to just drop the knight back and make that threat in positions like this. So I'll do that. Attacking d6. It's not like I win a pawn or anything, but I feel like he's got to do something that maybe he's not that keen on. And my next couple moves, I'm thinking rook e1, bishop f1, just to get my rook more operative on the e-file. b3 also solidifies that pawn, so he has gone rook d8. Makes sense. Thinking about this. Also thinking about just rook c1. I'll go rook e1. Looks normal. Okay, so b5 is a very committal move. First thing that I would look at is whether I can use the b5 square. The next thing that I would look at is if I can just go c5. And maybe I'll even put those two things together. So I'll start by doing this. I just put a rook on e1, so it does make a lot of sense to play e takes d5. And knight b5 seems to make sense. Let's attack the queen. Queen needs to move. And after something like queen e7, then I think I was going to go for c5. And I've got the d4 square very well watched. Well, literally by almost every piece on the board. d6 is a square maybe I can jump into. And bishop f1 is a move I actually want to play. I do want to get that move played so that my rook starts to make some threats here. So although knight d6 is tempting, I don't actually see that move threatening a lot. I don't see it actually threatening anything really. And maybe it's loose to something like d6. So I'm actually thinking a lot more like knight d4 is the move. Strengthen these pawns. Can take this bishop. But yeah, bishop f1, very underrated move. Probably going to be my next one. Yeah, let's do this. So now he's got real problems, let's say. And if queen takes there, there's always going to be a knight discovery. Something doesn't feel right about this. Just looking at the queen on e7 and my rook on e1. Only good things should be happening here for me. So this move, knight g4, is not very convincing because I don't have any useful moves. Bishop f4, knight h5 is actually decently resourceful by black, so I'm not too sure about that one either. What I am interested in is this move bishop g5, because the queen has to stay here and guard the knight. There's no h6, and by pinning this knight, there's no knight h5 available either. And my threat is f4. So that move can be played, but it is a free pawn for me. And I have to take it. Meanwhile, I still have this pin, so something like f4 or to that effect might be very strong soon. f4, knight g4. And I think my opponent is probably going to be losing material there. It's a tricky line though, so I'm going to go here. Knight there, I guess. Knight here, then queen h3. Yeah, this one I wasn't too sure about because now it looks like there might actually be material lost. Let's find out. This is kind of scary, having your queen lined up against the bishop, but I am attacking a knight and pinning it to a queen, so I've got some threats of my own. If the other knight went there, I would have gone to h4. Okay, now this is actually not going anywhere, so I think I'm going to play queen g3, get out of this danger, and then still threaten to take this knight. h3 I'm looking at now. I think I like h3. I still want to take this knight, and I certainly will if the queen moved, but this is even better because now we got the knight to move. And I think this is probably good. We'll get some trades. We are up a piece now. GG chicken pants. That'll be too much. Yeah, the extra piece is too much. So I was mentioning a few things about this position. Let's take a look at the opening. King's Indian, I mean, this is good. This is always good. You don't know how to handle the English well? Well, chicken pants, this wasn't in English. So I'm sorry, but that excuse doesn't fly. This is just a d4. This is just King's Indian. You handled the English perfectly. What do you mean you don't know how to handle the English? It's not in English anymore. Right? Just because I start with c4 doesn't make something, you know, the English immediately. So you played knight f6, which is good. As a King's Indian guy, a lot of people who start with 1 c4 against you, they're gonna end up playing d4 and e4. So you're gonna end up probably playing a normal King's Indian, which is the exact same that you would get against d4 in a lot, like a very high percentage of your games, because it just won't matter. Like, all these moves are gonna get played against you, and it doesn't matter what order. So I started with c4, but as you can see, it didn't really matter. What we got here is a regular King's Indian that you've probably played tons of times with the black pieces against d4. So it's the exact same thing. And as for this is all fine. Knight d7, this is still fine. You really have to kind of ignore. Actually, I was wondering why this was showing up. Okay, yeah. Really hate these like brilliancy question mark things, chess.com puts. They're always so inaccurate. I was gonna say, you really have to ignore a lot about what the engine is gonna slap you in the face about in the King's Indian. Like, basically knight bd7 is very top level theory. Still, like, it's still a normal theoretical move. So for the, you know, chess.com engine to be like inaccurate is kind of deflating for what is a very, very standard move. So here, this is not something I expect you to like just calculate over the board, but it's worth noting that a lot of the games that I play against, you know, strong sort of tactical high energy players like Naroditsky, for example, will constantly find ways to energetically sack a pawn, maybe just temporarily, and sort of free the position. And this is one of those ways where black plays knight b6 and then looks to take the pawn back. And you've kind of got a bunch of open lines, and you can see how the evaluation bar, well, I guess you can't, because that's exactly why I wanted to take away that analysis thing. But I can tell you that from my end, the evaluation bar really did take a good leap down. But I think the eval bar, when you're looking with an engine, is so unfair to black. The King's Indian is like a pretty good opening, and sometimes you play the King's Indian and the eval's like, all right, you know, fuck you, +1 for white. I guess you're lost. Like, that's pretty much just how it starts. So as soon as you get make a half decent move, it starts to like jump right back to even. So anyway, this is a good line. This is a good line to know. Just that d5 is a fun way to sack, but it's very specific to this position, so it's not something you can always just bust out. So like I said, I wasn't expecting you to just like play that move out of nowhere. I thought the way you played was very reasonable. Rook e8, unfortunately, if I attack your pawn, your rook's gonna have to end up moving again, which is kind of the way it is. Like something like this. So really, I thought, didn't think there was anything wrong with the way you were playing at all. You played d5. I don't mind this move either. So I went for this. And here the main concern that I have is your queen and my rook, which eventually they're gonna line up. And you saw, like, even on the next two moves, two pieces got out of the way, so it became, you know, even closer of a long distance relationship. And it's not one that you're looking to have. This is gonna be very painful for you, and it's the reason you ended up losing, which tactics involving the rook and the queen. So it would probably be, let's say, a good habit to like get the queen out of the way, but it's tough to explain because, you know, you're gonna lose your bishop pair here, and pawn's not fantastic. But I would say that black has a lot of pretty good compensation here. For the bishops, you still have this guy, which is the key to your position. So I don't mind your game at all. But it's not that easy to play here. I think that white is already in a comfortable spot. But I don't like this. So I would probably look to move the queen out of the way. And then maybe play exactly how you did in the game. Bishop d7. Save your bishop if I don't take it. And if I'm ever playing bishop f4, it's important to know that, yes, you might have like knight d7, for example. But knight h5 is always going to be a very strong move because I'm not able to maintain this pin. I can't put my bishop anywhere here. So I kind of just have to go back. And if I take you, I'm literally insane. This is always a terrible move. I'm just gonna like lose this game. So I didn't mind how you played it, but if you just got your queen out of the way of my rook and then played it the exact same way, that looks pretty good. You know, I would put my rook here and my rook there and this bishop back here and play that game. Right? Save your bishop, put your rook on an open file, put your other rook on an open file where you can attack a pawn. And, you know, both sides have a playable position in my opinion. I think white's a bit better. I'd prefer white, but nothing crazy. This is just regular King's Indian stuff. You're gonna get an imbalanced position, and your opponents aren't gonna play it perfectly. So I think it's the exact kind of game that you're looking for out of the opening. Even knight c6 can be played in some lines. It's probably not my favorite move here, but you can try to trade a knight off, get your queen again. Next move probably out of the way of the e file, and go from there. Your King's Indian instincts are definitely good here, and it's not like I got an overwhelming advantage. It was mainly just, do you see a rook lined up against your queen? You should definitely be thinking about moving the queen as soon as possible. Yeah, f3 is called the same-ish, so it's another King's Indian line that's worth checking out. But specifically, if people play it the way I did, I would be looking in your case to play something like this. Like this quick d5 move. Most people are not going to handle this very well. You get very active, you get to capture this pawn, and most people will blunder here extremely quickly. Like, almost for sure. Like, black's already got a position that I think is just better. Any position that's open tactical is going to favor black and a King's Indian, just generally. GG Chicken Pants.